And welcome into another episode of Tiger Territory, part of the Foul Territory Network, a Detroit Tigers podcast. I am Kieran Steckley. With me, as always, a man who has quite a likeness to his name and image. He is Cody Stavenhagen. How you doing?
Doing all right. Still waiting for all those NIL checks to hit my bank account, but whatever.
Promises kept, promises not kept. That's the NIL game. All right. Uh, we are recording this Monday early evening. So if anything happens later tonight, we'll address it on our next podcast. But for now, Cody, I wanted to go back to what we talked about with your roster projection last week, and we were talking about the Troy Melton aspect of predicting the Tigers pitching staff, and then where Drew Anderson fits into that. And I had said that because they gave Anderson a little bit of cash here. Speaking of promises, a contract would constitute a promise. A little bit of cash here to enter spring training as a starter, and they also have a team option for next year. So based on that information, it's not like I studied the international tapes or anything like that. But given that information and the fact that Melton is obviously not a finished product and he's still a very young player, I thought, it just kind of feels like maybe the safer move would be, like, from the Tigers' perspective, would be to give Anderson a little bit of leeway, and then you can bring in Melton, when he's more ready, work on things in AAA, blah, blah, blah. Now, the pushback, which, by the way, obviously I'm fine with, like, we're not impeccable here. The pushback was essentially that, well, you got to look at what they did last year with Job. They started him when, he broke with the team, I should say, and they had Maeda in the pen. Maeda, who at that time was making, $10 million or whatever. So, like, that was an example of going with young upside um, over like more established, expensive player in the starting rotation. That's fair. I engaged a little bit, and I was just like, look, I mean, I think they're higher on Anderson than they were with Maeda at that time, but I see your point. There is a physical track record of the Tigers saying we're going to go with our best five, and we'll kind of figure all the other stuff out. So I just kind of wanted to revisit that. Since you've done the Ross projection, since we did our last episode, I'm sure you've had chances to kind of mull over, the decisions you made. So just that notion right there, Cody. Was I a little bit too flip it in the regards to the Tigers could, like, they maybe the default to giving Anderson, like, kind of first try there for starting rotation number 5 spot?
Well, I don't think your logic is terribly flawed. If we go back to last spring, I think I was with you on saying it was entirely possible Kenta Maeda could have made the rotation. And if Maeda had continued to pitch well throughout the entirety of spring, he might have. Now, also, Job looked really good in spring. And I think the Tigers did ultimately settle on, well, they couldn't leave Job's upside in Toledo, especially knowing that with the prospect promotion incentive, that would mean leaving him there for the majority of the season. But I also think you make a strong point, Kieran, in that the Tigers surely feel better about Drew Anderson right now than they did Maeda. If they don't feel better about him than they did Kenta Maeda, they should not have signed him. Let's be real clear. So I think it's not an apples to apples comparison because Maeda was coming off a terrible year. The Tigers were banking that he could recapture something. But he was a known commodity. Drew Anderson is coming to this team. He's a known commodity to them, but there's a ton of unknown in terms of what he's going to look like, how the stuff he displayed in the KBO is going to translate to spring training. And Melton, good as he is, he's not quite Job, who was an elite level pitching prospect. Now, we'll get to this in a minute, but Melton's stuff grades out really well too, even if not quite Jackson Job level good. Like, I just don't think it's quite the one-to-one comparison, though. I ultimately, in my roster projection, had Melton on the roster, though, for probably the reason the Tigers carried Job last year. He might just be too good to leave those innings in AAA, regardless of what you're paying another guy, regardless of what roles are promised. Again, I also think, look, chances are someone's going to tweak a hammy or strain a shoulder or hopefully not worse, but maybe worse with an arm injury. And none of this debate is going to matter, but it is interesting right now. Are you going to give the fifth rotation job to the guy you're paying $7 million, to a guy who you signed in part because you told him, we want you to come to camp as a starter, or are you going to give it to the young stud who pitched really well for you, even if the metrics are flawed? We went over this last week, but we can go over it again. Troy Melton, really good last year, 2.76 ERA, but the deeper you dive into his metrics, there are some flaws. Didn't generate a ton of whiff. Really was not that good against left-handed batters, particularly in terms of getting whiff and strikeouts against left-handed batters. But you can look at how his stuff grades out. This is stuff plus, which again is basically a projection. You can plug in spin rate, arm angle, movement horizontal, movement vertical of individual pitches, and there are systems that project how these pitches will play in a game. 100 would indicate this pitch is going to generate league average results. Troy Melton is above 100 with his fastball, with his sinker, with his cutter, with his splitter, with his slider, with his changeup. Overall, 107 stuff plus in his first taste of the major leagues. What that should tell you is that there is reason to believe that his underlying metrics can get even better if he executes his pitches a little better, because the raw profile of the pitch is really nasty. So that's why I'm going to be a believer in Troy Melton, why I think it might be foolish for the Tigers to leave him off the roster in favor of someone like Drew Anderson. But to go back to your original question, I don't know. I think there is logic in that it's possible a team could side with the guy they're paying $7 million and option the guy who happens to have an option available or could go to the pin or whatever it may be. I think it's fair to disagree a little bit on this one, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's Robert James. Want to give him credit for the discourse there. I guess the last kind of piece of this is, do you foresee a world where Melton is not optioned, but he is in the bullpen to start the year, as opposed to just doing the starter thing, whichever level that is?
Again, that'll probably be something that we're asking AJ Hinch and Scott Harris on like days 1 and 2 of spring training. I would lean no, based on the Scott Harris comments at the end of the season presser that said he wanted Melton to be a starter. If you want Troy Melton to be a starter, and based on how the Tigers have handled pretty much every pitcher, with the exception of Troy Melton last year, for whatever that's worth, they like starters to remain starters. Because it's, you ramp down to a bullpen role, it's hard to then ramp back up again into a starting pitcher role, especially if we're talking the long view, the rest of Melton's career, or even just the rest of this season. I think you want him, if he's going to be a starter, you want him to function as a guy who can go 6-7 innings, who can go 3 times through an order, stay stretched out. So if he's not starting in the big leagues, I think it would probably be more prudent to have him as a starter in Toledo. Drew Anderson, all that same logic applies, but he is maybe built a little bit more for the swingman role. That's probably what he projects as best, if we're just being realistic. And, he's older. He's on a 1-year deal. He's not, you're not staking your future on him like you are Melton a little bit. So you never know, but if I were running the team, I think I would have Melton only as a starter one way or another from here on out.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that. All right, we are going to take a quick break, and then afterward, we are going to deep dive on the Tigers' international signings. But first, a word from our sponsors.
Nobody likes a bloated cell phone bill. It can consume you. It can take over. It can be very annoying. So I know that 2025 ended Kratz, and that's when you have your end of year sales, but there actually is still one sale that is running until the end of the month.
Mint Mobile. They still have their 50% off their unlimited premium wireless offer that you got to go and get and take advantage of, because it's not necessarily going to be around all the time.
And all plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Quit overspending on wireless with 50% off unlimited premium wireless. Plans start at $15 a month at mintmobile.com/territory. That's mintmobile.com/territory. Limited time offer. Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12 months. Plan required. $15 per month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Over 50 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. Capable device required. Availability, speed, and coverage varies. See mintmobile.com.
One other quick note on Melton Kieran, because there's been some more debate on the internet about him this week. We know there's some concerns in the metrics from his small sample. I pointed out the Stuff Plus, though. Also at winter meetings, I talked to a couple different scouts who said they view him as a 60 caliber pitcher. So 60 on the 0 to 80 scouting scale, which is basically, almost a frontline guy, probably a number 2 type. And that's what I've struggled with for a long time, is what is his ultimate ceiling. At first I thought, look, this guy's really good, but maybe he's not more than a number 4. And then after watching him pitch, it's like, maybe he could be a number 2. And then this offseason, as people dive deeper into the numbers, there's been like a regression to like, well, maybe he's not that good. A couple scouts who are pretty good think he can be maybe not an ace, but a top end of the rotation type of guy for sure.
Again, if you believe in
Those
that
are scouts
upside,
from opposing teams, for whatever that's worth.
Yes. So if you believe that, if you're in the Tigers organization, front office, coaching staff, whatever, then I think it is important for this year and beyond to give him that role. So that's just my opinion on the matter. I do realize I came across like really serious going into that break. We are not going to deep dive the international signings because like there are people that do that, and kudos to them. And our friends at Tigers Minor League Report do a great job. There's plenty of sources there. That's a commitment that if you're gonna be like really kind of know and scout these guys. And speaking of scouting scales or whatever, that lingo is certainly thrown out for a lot of these guys. But just like every year, there it is an example of the organization telling you kind of who, obviously specifically to the player, and then what kind of player they value in this international free agency class with the money that they give out there. So couple guys getting some pretty nice checks there. Cody, what can you tell us about the newest members of the Tigers organization?
Yeah, first of all, the reason this isn't a full deep dive is I cannot imagine a job in baseball harder than being an international scout. In addition to just all the restrictions you have to navigate, and like they're worried about getting scouts in and out of Venezuela and players in and out of Venezuela to go to tournaments in the Dominican and stuff like that. Constant turmoil. Also, you were looking at kids when they are 14, 15, 16 years old and trying to decide, what is this kid going to be? It's better than it used to be. I remember talking to Al Avila about his days as an international scout, and he was in like Nicaragua and Panama, and he would say, there are times no one even knew where I was. They didn't have cell phones. You'd have to like find a payphone, and there was some weird like long international code you could type in, and that could connect you with someone. So it's not quite that bad, but it's still a tough life. A lot of travel, a lot of time on the road, going to backfields and watching skinny 15-year-olds and hoping you can hit on one of them. So it's a tough job. We don't know a ton about. I mean, we have a lot of information about these players, but the players they are in 4, 5, 6 years could be totally different. Think about if you guys played high school baseball. Who was the best kid as a freshman, and was that kid still the best as a senior? A lot of times, like Tarik Skubal. No one knew who Tarik Skubal was when he was 15 or 16 years old. Now he is the winner of back-to-back Cy Young Awards. But that's all to say the Tigers did welcome a new international class. I think the main guys to know, Manuel Bolivar, he's a catcher. Oscar Teneo, shortstop, switch hitter. And Randy Santana, he is an outfielder. We can get into them each a little bit. Randy Santana was the only one ranked in the top 50 from MLB Pipeline. Kind of a toolsy outfield type. Right-handed swing, maybe some pretty good power. He's best known for his arm, though. His arm, as MLB.com wrote, a true howitzer for a throwing arm. Triple-digit throws from the grass. He can really run, so we'll see if he's ultimately center field or right field. Right now, the Tigers think he can play center. So he's pretty fun. He's pretty tooled out. Manuel Bolivar, just missed the pipeline top 50. I believe Baseball America is a lot higher on him, and he kind of fits the Tigers' profile lately. Think of guys they've drafted, shortstops, guys they've traded for, catchers. Well, he's a catcher. He happens to be for now, a big catcher. He's already 6'3", and I asked Miguel Garcia, the Tigers' director of international operations, like, is it any harder evaluating a catcher at this age than other positions? Because if this kid really fills out, can he stay at catcher? What does he look like? How does he move in a few years' time? We don't know, but the Tigers, they like his arm. They think he's got some good pop in the bat. There are concerns about swing and miss. The Tigers, talking to them, Rob Metzler, didn't seem too worried about that, but right now there's some whiff in the swing. And then also Oscar Teneo, switch hitting shortstop, really known for his glove work, and has a lot of room to fill out. He's really lanky right now. One of those guys we'll probably have a better feel for in a few years. So those are kind of the main three guys. All got 7-figure plus bonuses. Check back in 5-6 years. Let's see if these guys are any good.
Yeah, and we've talked over the years about the Tigers with the different regimes and their kind of approach to the international signing, and I guess there is a right way to do it, but to me it just kind of feels like it's kind of a lottery either way, but I do think the Tigers currently are pretty consistent about attacking the athletic profile that they like their metrics, their information believes yields the highest return on investment, whether that's a draft pick and the money associated with that, or with the international signing period. So it does seem like, especially up the middle athletes, which I mean, you talked about right there, was potential up the middle athletes. It seems like that is a premium, because if you fail at shortstop, you could probably go to second base. You fail at center, you could probably go to right or left. And, if you fail at catcher, you could probably, assuming other skills are there too, obviously, you could probably, go to first base. Hell, you might even become a pitcher. We've seen obviously a lot of examples of that. So yeah, I mean, so not a whole lot of analysis other than like you do see a pattern with what they like and what they like to attack, and how the kind of like athletes they want to bring into the organization. And then, like I said, it's a gamble. See how these kids do, drafted international class, how they do doing the minor league thing, how they handle like being a professional ball player and develop and work and all that stuff. We'll see, but we can probably wager that next year we're going to be saying similar things about the guys that they sign, and then come in the draft, we'll probably be talking about shortstop, catcher, center field.
I'm probably going to get a shortstop or a catcher who can hit from the left side. Or they like left-handed hitting shortstops, catchers who can hit for power, and toolsy outfielders. That is very much the profile under this new regime, and all those things make sense. I don't, in fact, hate how aggressively they are targeting those profiles, because if you just hit on one of those things, you could have an all-star caliber catcher or an all-star caliber shortstop and great platoon advantages, and they are clearly trying to make their system more athletic as well, hence players like Randy Santana in the outfield.
Yeah, and also like even before they become major leaguers, just like high-end assets to have in your organization. Yeah. Potential trades and flexibility and all the things that come with that. All right, let's get to our unsponsored but contractually obligated Tarik Skubal update. It's a deep dive for me on this one, but Tarik Skubal recently via Instagram participated in 2026 is the new 2016, or I'm probably butchering that a little bit. Participated in that, and I guess the Tigers have put some stuff out there, participating in the trend. In 2016, Cody, Tarik Skubal was not a member of the Tigers organization. He was still at Seattle U. Is this him sending a message that in 2026 he will not be a member of the Tigers organization? That is me with my conspiracy glasses on. Is there anything to this deep dive, Cody?
Hold on, I got to get this up on the screen for you guys. This is the important stuff. I'm doing this on the fly. Here we go. Here is Tarik
There we
Skubal
go.
sharing the trend on Instagram. Get a load of that hair, man. That was Tarik Skubal in 2016. So again, anyone who knew he was going to be a Cy Young winner, I don't know. Developed quite well, you could say, and I do think he's doing better without the long hair. I would otherwise read 0 into this. It means nothing, but we had to have a Tarik Skubal update. So there you go.
Yeah. So there you go. It's the updates are scant, but it's could be true. There might be a 0.1% chance it's true. We got to address it either way. All right. Let's get to another sort of like roster construction aspect as we kind of project forward here about a little less than a month before everybody is reported down to Lakeland. I wanted to revisit something. So at winter meetings, Scott Harris talked about Kevin McGonigle, and he had a quote in there that to me didn't really inspire a lot of confidence. And I said so at the time. We have this on the screen if you guys are watching on YouTube. This is Scott Harris referring to Kevin McGonigle at winter meetings. Quote, "We haven't figured it out yet in terms of like his roster spot or lack thereof. Part of it depends on the makeup of the team. Part of it depends on Kevin's preparedness to be on the opening day roster. There are a lot of factors that go into it." My initial read on that quote was, well, like if you anticipate McGonigle like either being on your opening day roster or having like a real like shot at it, then that kind of should affect your decision making other places around the roster. And so I was like, all right, well, maybe something will happen, like a Bregman signing or like a Bichette signing or, whatever that will like, change the makeup of the team. And then we can kind of assess from there. All right, well, there hasn't really been any of that, Cody. The makeup of the team is the same now as it was then, as it was really ever since Gleyber Torres accepted the qualifying offer. So we've had a lot of time to like kind of stare at the makeup of the team. So I guess the thought that I had was perhaps there's a better chance now that McGonigle breaks with the team out of Lakeland than there was then because no additions to the roster have been made. So therefore the path is I don't know if it's necessarily clearer, but there have been no roadblocks in the path to Kevin McGonigle, skipping AAA and starting the season with the Tigers.
Thank God the Tigers didn't sign our guy Ha-Sung Kim. Slipped on some ice in Korea and he's out 4 to 5 months or something. That is a terrible break. So he gets to keep doing the 1-year deal game a little bit longer. And the Braves, man, they were feeling good about their shortstop situation. Not so good today. You're right, Kieran. The Tigers haven't done anything to change their roster. You would think that makes the path more clear, that perhaps the path is more likely that Kevin McGonigle makes the opening day roster. But just here in my office here in Ferndale, I've been thinking about it more, and I think it's less likely just because Kevin McGonigle has played 46 games above high A. And in Double A Erie, we've said this before, the internet would make you think he hit 330. He hit 254. Batting averages and everything. He's got really, really good. Batted ball data is terrific. But he had 254 in 46 games above AA. It would be incredibly un-Tigers-like to then put him on the opening day roster. That's just what I think. I think there's room for him, but we've also gone over their position players. They're bringing back everyone. Now, there could be an injury or two in spring that changes things, but even then, might a roster spot go to someone who has played in AAA, like a Hao Yu Lee, or even Max Anderson has had a taste of AAA? Are other people in line ahead of Kevin McGonigle, even if McGonigle, everyone knows, is the best player? I tend to think so, and I don't know if that's right, because you talk to people around the league, you talk to scouts, everyone thinks McGonigle is the truth, and that his skill set can translate pretty quickly. But 46 games, not even touching AAA, That'd be a new one for the Tigers to put him in the big leagues.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, we started this podcast talking about the Melton thing and what's, you're balancing like immediate and future like aspects of the team, and the same is definitely applies to the Kevin McGonigle situation. And I guess at the time we didn't know if Glaber, like when we first started talking about it before, technically free agency and all this stuff started, like we didn't know if Glaber was gonna, be back and maybe second base is open and all that stuff. And since then, obviously a lot of avenues have closed there. They have to do what's right for Kevin McGonigle long term, because what's right for Kevin McGonigle long term is what's right for the Tigers long term as well. If it's better for to just get him major, like if he's special, and it's just like, you know what, he ain't gonna learn anything in AAA. Go, let's get him against major league pitching. Then do that. If it's better for him to kind of go through the normal progression of getting to the big leagues when he's obviously still very young. Like there's no need to rush him per se when you don't have an immediate roster spot for him. I see the merits in that too. So all that to say, maybe the plan all along was, look, we're not gonna like force ourselves into having Ken McGonigle on the open day roster. We're not gonna concern ourselves with the draft pick incentive because, again, that is a very high threshold in order to get that. So we're just gonna gonna ride this out through its natural course. And maybe that was the plan the whole time. But I guess it wouldn't make any sense to announce that. But but maybe that was the plan the whole time. And but either way, whether that's the plan or the plan is for him to be on the roster, I feel like that's solidified now outside of a crazy trade or outside of him just like, killing it in spring training.
Yeah. Another way to look at it under the unlikely guys that everyone is healthy, which is how we talked about the Melton and Anderson thing. Who are you kicking off the roster to carry Kevin McGonigle? Are you kicking off Jahmai Jones, who had a 900 plus OPS against lefties? I don't think so. Kicking off Winsel Perez, who was very valuable? I don't know. Matt Vierling, who the Tigers are very optimistic can have a very productive bounce back season. I doubt it. You can't do anything with Javi Baez. Who goes for this prized rookie? There's not an obvious candidate to me.
No, I think you're right on that. Obviously you're not doing anything with Cole Keith. You're not doing anything with McKinstry. It's obviously Jahmai is the one that stands out, but then it would almost then like the makeup of the roster makes less sense because
you know how these guys operate. Get ready to hear all spring about how valuable Jahmai Jones is, and they might be right. They might not. Yeah. It's banking a lot on him to repeat, the season he had, which was still a pretty small sample. But these guys love their platoons and they love the surprise and the strategery and all of that good stuff, right? AJ Hinch is all about it. They love them some Jahmai Jones.
Yeah, and again, I think we, like you said earlier, we talk a lot about about McGonigle, but I think it is worth mentioning like Max Anderson, who just got named one of the top 10 by MLB Pipeline second baseman options, and and Hyu Lee, like a guy that the Tigers have been like high on, since he came to the organization. That like it might be like those guys' time first, if that makes sense, and like overall that would be okay. So, but we'll see. I do believe that like McGonigle is capable of playing his way onto this roster and making you make those tough decisions. But I don't think the Tigers will ever want to be in a place where they're forced to do something with a young player. And right now they're set up to where they're not forced to do anything with Kevin McGonigle, or they're not, and they're not forced to do anything with Troy Melton either. Like they both, there is some level of cushion there, given variance and injuries and all this stuff that happens over the course of a baseball season.
I hope Kevin McGonigle hits 500 with 8 home runs in spring training. and just really forces their hand. Wouldn't that be fun?
I would enjoy it. And it'd be great contact. It'd be great for him. And it would probably be. I mean, it would be a better sign than sucking. So like
Yeah.
so, and could probably use. Kevin McGonigle is going to be one of those guys that's going to get a lot of like he's going to be all over your social media feed from like MLB and all that stuff. The minute he does anything, he's going to be one of the good faces of the Tigers, which, not to say obviously Skubal is a bad face for the Tigers. He's obviously a great face for the Tigers, but the Skubal situation is not ringing with great headlines at this point.
There are going to be a lot more people pissed at the Tigers than they already are in spring training if there's no fun resolution with the Skubal situation. If the Tigers make clear they're not going to carry Kevin McGonigle or Max Clark or Max Anderson on the opening day roster, people are just going to be mad and they're just going to complain. But if you want to know, if we get to the point where McGonigle's not going to be on the opening day roster and you don't understand why, we just told you why. You don't have to agree with it. But this is how the team thinks about things, and right now I view that as probably their likely course of action.
Yeah, I tend to agree. All right, Cody, anything else before we jet out of here?
No, that's all I got. And we'll see what we got wrong. We can put some tallies on the board, because last spring we were wrong about Kenta Maeda and even the team's thinking on Kenta Maeda. We were wrong on that one, and he was terrible. So we make mistakes.
Yeah, I mean, we'll do more roster projections as we get more data and even get like maybe a more clear understanding once the microphones are in front of AJ and in front of Scott and then assuming there's no major moves, like we'll be able to assess from there. But it's right now it's all in theory, it's all thought, and it's still a lot of fun. But it's going to be more fun when there's something a little bit more tangible to talk about.
Should sign Sir Anthony Dominguez. Let's get some swing and miss in this bullpen. Not to start a tangent here at the end of the episode, but I think they should sign Sir Anthony Dominguez.
And that is a tease at the end of the episode. You can follow us on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Cody Stavenhagen. I'm at Kieran_Steckley, pod page at Tiger Territory _. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel if you have not already. You see all those podcasts going to Netflix? We're not going to Netflix. We're staying right here on YouTube. If you could subscribe, it would help us out tremendously. So for Cody Stavenhagen, I'm Kieran Steckley. Everybody have a great day.